Hey, folks, what other Redneck Country podcast? You're on with Real Redneck Todd Millard. Of course, we've got the almost guy, Real Redneck Bill Tom. Bill, are you there?
I am here, and
don't say it. Do not. Nope.
It is a beautiful night for a podcast. Other than the fact that the weather is terrible,
then
it's always a beautiful night for a podcast.
It's because you get to talk to me.
You know, yeah, that's what makes the night worthwhile, Todd. I'm glad I woke up this morning with the thought that tonight is podcast night, and I get to talk to Todd Millard.
You get Todd time.
Yep.
You're welcome.
I wait all week for this.
I don't sense any sarcasm in your voice at all. I am so
you're
appreciative.
Not listening hard enough. Oh, that was sarcastic. Sorry. Yeah. Hey, so before we get into this, I'm going to ask you this. Are you going to introduce your dad? Or are you just going to let him sit there for half an hour?
How do you even know if he's here?
Oh, no?
How do you know? How do you know it's just not me? Because I am the ready guy. I've been sitting down here in the studio ready to rock for the last, I don't even know how many minutes. They
if that's the case, your dad is the ever ready guy. He's always ready.
Those are a cheaper battery. they may come out strong, but they're going to peter out real fast.
So...
Sitting beside me, as always, is Patriarch of Redneck Country. My father, Real Redneck Don Millard. Dad, is your mic hot?
My mic is hot. It was a great walkover, but it wasn't a good night for a walkover because we had one heck of a storm today, all day. It would be clear.
Credit and blame for that.
Right? Yeah. Puscatawny Phil / Wyatt and Willie, you darn near cursed us. Yeah. I blame you, Bill. All this spring talk got my car ready, all set to go out and try to race some joggers down the main drag.
And that reminds me, thank you for the videos and pictures of your build, Bill.
Again?
Oh, yeah. It's
like, awesome. Is that all you guys do?
Well, yeah. We're car guys.
Yeah. I was sending pictures of your dad this week and noticed I kept you off the list.
Yeah.
There's a Hot Wheels sticker in the mail for you, buddy.
And now you've come to the realization why I've kept you off the list.
Yeah, exactly.
I had a great success this weekend doing the brakes and the shocks in the rear end. I got all that finished up, and emergency brake cables, accelerator cable, clutch cable.
You know what? I think I figured it out. I know why older dudes navigate to the car culture lifestyle.
Why is that, Todd?
Because you can't tell if they're talking about their last doctor visit or if they're talking about their hot rod. I just had to do the rear end and fix up the brakes, and she's almost ready. I mean, it was tough. We were limping in there.
With me, it's suspension.
We're going to leave him out of the loop until I finally get it done, Don.
I appreciate that. I really do, because I can comment back to you, enjoy it, and then there's not 16 negative comments that keep lighting up my phone.
We had to flush out the fuel system, drain the radiator, get rid of all that yellow fluid.
We'd have a difficult time with the radiator in that old Beetle, I can tell you that for sure.
See, I don't know what you're talking about. Are you having plumbing problems, buddy, or is your car hurting?
Yeah. So, anyways, that's the Volkswagen update in a nutshell. I appreciate you listening, Todd, as always.
You know what? I love it, because now I'm in a good mood. See, that's what it was. I was a little irritated coming into this thing, and then I get to throw that down, and now all of a sudden, look at that. My demeanor has changed. I'm good. I'm signing off for the night. Y'all have a good time. Let me know when to hit stop.
That's good. Yeah. Hey, you were speaking of stop. I did see some goalie pads and this sieve that's going to be present soon. Have you actually put all that stuff on in cold weather on ice, or are you just in your living room with all this?
Tomorrow night, Bell's is debut.
Oh, thank you, Dad. See, someone pays attention. Todd, the Wall Millard has been born, ladies and gentlemen. It is time. I can see my brother-in-law who plays against me is up in the, I could see him right here. He's chuckling.
We'll
light you up.
We'll watch our Facebook and our messages for lack of participation to see how he did.
Yep.
I guarantee you the worse he does, the less posts are going to be there. So all these
then I better have a charged battery, buddy, because I was thinking of wearing my GoPro if guys wouldn't then try to smoke it off my helmet or in my chest.
Have you ever skated in goalie skates?
You know, I used to play. How old was I, Dad? 10 years old?
Oh, yeah, I don't know.
Before I went traveling and that, I played, like my first year or 2 years, I played goalie.
He actually went to goalie school.
I did. Down the street, the junior B, and his dad played for New York Islanders and New York Rangers. Lived 7 houses down the street.
Yeah, and they still live there. The dad still lives there.
So they were probably 8 years older than me, maybe a bit more, maybe 10. Maybe they were probably, because if I was 9 or 10. Then they'd have been 16 or 17 because he was junior. Yeah, he played in the juniors and he was a goalie. So they had a goalie clinic school, and I actually took the goalie clinics. And that's what I keep telling everybody. I've done this before.
Yeah, I'm sure not much has changed in 35 years. So. No concussions. I mean, your body's going to just be, it's like muscle memory. I guarantee it's like riding a bike.
I made the post on my Facebook, my Instagram there, and Wendy's all, what arena? What time? And I'm like, are you fixing to come? And what? She's like, nope, making sure my calendar's clear so I can treat you. I'm ready to rock. I'm all pumped. I got everything. It's been a while collecting the gear. I think I've shared this. My wife was like, we're not spending that kind of money. Like, that stuff's not cheap. But I've been slowly finding it. And like, I got some amazing pads for free. I got the skates. Buddy, I am ready to go. We're ready to dance.
And the one thing I did see, and I clicked off because I was just, that you were telling about cleaning tips. And that I figured that was true Todd Millard right there, that people were asking how you clean the pads and the blocker, and you were giving your cleaning tips. So I figured if nothing else, you can have public education on how to clean goalie equipment, because I'm certain it's not going to be how to stop pucks.
Because it's just inherent for me, and it's hard to explain. You can't teach raw talent.
Right. Why does that blocker have no puck marks on it? Because I've never stopped the puck with it.
Well, and that's exactly why I told him not to clean them. His pads, when he got them secondhand, were all puck marks. So blocker, everything was all puck marks. And he spent hours cleaning all the puck marks off. And I said, you know what? You might better leave them on. That looks like you're actually stopping something. Yeah. Because your next 10 games, you won't have a mark on them.
Because people can't hit the net.
Well, yeah,
because they're too intimidated by the wall coming at them. I tell you what.
Well, all I am is looking for, all I'll be looking for is the post of how you did, and when the next call up is to the big show.
I tell you what, did you see the jersey? Is it that? Yeah, you did, the CHL. Mm. Yeah, I'm coming. So and then the next kicker, really, what it's all about is, I guess I could tell you now. Me and Jay have kind of been secret, but it's the launch of a new podcast, possibly here. We'll see how the debut goes tomorrow night.
Good.
Don't tell people things that aren't going to happen.
Yeah. My brother, Jay?
Maybe, yeah. Well, hey, I mean, you got to see, we're all about, this podcast is all about, passing on hunting heritage and fishing heritage through stories. Well, why not through hockey? I mean, if I'm that good at hockey, how else do I get it out there? Not to sound cocky or arrogant or anything, but...
The one thing I know for sure is my brother can play hockey. And I know that you can play out, but I have no confidence in your ability between the pipes. I'm just saying right now.
Now I need to find a videographer. If anybody's listening, oh, dang it, this is going to air too late. I need to find somebody that will come and record it.
Yeah. I'm thinking that we can make a lot of money off what this is going to yield.
Tips and tricks.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, there you go. Now that we've taken up time
tomorrow night, it's awesome. I'm pumped. You know what? My buddy reached out and I told him, hey, I got the gear, and he's like, really? And the guy that plays, the two guys that play goalie, but one's like really good. He played in the OHL, everything else, and so he plays in net because he gets bored playing out. But he's like, hey, you could take it, Todd. You got the gear now. You can go in the net, and I'll come out. And I'm like, no. If he's playing out, I don't want to play in net. But he can't make it this week, so my buddy messaged me up. He's like, hey, and I made those signs. His name is DJ, so I had those signs, better than DJ goalie services, and I plastered them all over the arena. Is it coming soon? Call Todd the Wall Millard for all your goalie needs. So I got a message on Sunday evening. Hey, do you know the number for that better than DJ goalie services? And I'm like, yes, it's my time. He's like, yeah, DJ can't make it Tuesday night. It's on like Donkey Kong. So yeah, I'm all pumped. So stay tuned. I'll let you know how that goes.
Good. I'll be wondering. How did your week go, Don?
Awesome. Didn't do much. Didn't shoot. Weather was too bad, but we went to a hockey game, and the usual. Still doing my walks and waiting for the nice weather to get here because I want to go out and put some gun rests on my deer stand, my closed-in deer stand that's up elevated. But every time we get a nice day and I get ready to go, it can't go, and then the next day it turns bad again. So haven't got
to that's it. I mean, with the weather, we've kind of taken a step back from the gun club for the last, I don't know, 6 weeks. I'd say it's not even worth. We did go to the gun club on. We did go to the gun club on the weekend though, just to pay our membership and have a cup of coffee with the guys, and that was about it. But we went Sunday morning. And there was nobody. There was like two cars in the parking lot, and they were the people.
The weather was horrible on Sunday. Yeah. You went to the gun club, you nut job.
Well, we weren't going to shoot. We didn't even bring our guns. Honestly, we went with the 10. Our membership dues are due April 1st, and we just said let's go and pay our membership fees, see who's there, and nobody. Just the people were working there. I was the only ones there. So had a cup of coffee with my buddy Peter, who's he runs it, retired Air Canada pilot, and we talked about his working time, and I got to know him a little bit better on the weekend, and it was fun. Just had a good half an hour conversation, and we came home, and I had a very lazy Sunday, and it was awesome. So nothing wrong with that. That's what you do when you get old, right? No. Work on cars all day Saturday, recuperate all day Sunday.
Get some goalie gear and go sip between pipes.
Well, I've been looking forward to getting the tea bucket out as soon as the weather gets nice, but every time we get a nice day, it turns cold again. But I did the magazine Canadian Hot Rods. I really like that magazine, and I talked to Patty this week and renewed my subscription, so good to go for another couple of years.
Were you ever in that magazine?
Sorry?
Were you ever in that magazine with your car?
No, I have not. I was in one of the newspapers that I can't remember the name of it now. One of the newspapers. I was in that, or my car was in that. Made a couple of things, but I have never been in Canadian Hot Rods yet. But I've met him. He autographed a copy for me, and I met him in St. Thomas Dragway at a show.
Yeah, well, it's getting to that time of year. But if we can get rid of this white stuff, I stayed home from work today. I called a snow day today and had a doctor's appointment this morning, and then came home and I worked from home. But there was no way, with the amount of wind and blowing snow, that I was even going to bother going up and down the 400 highway today. Not even going to bother.
Yeah, it was terrible. Just terrible. I did my walks at the arena today. I couldn't do them outside. I mean, I could have, and I walked over tonight, but the whole way over, I'm going, oh my gosh, you get a few nice days and it spoils you, and I don't want winter to be back. I walked all winter, but I've had enough.
But, it's turkey season soon. I was driving the other day and I saw 3 toms, full strut in a field, 5 minutes from work, down the 400 or down 16 there in a little field, full strut with a hen. And then we get this minus 13 weather this morning. Yeah.
Good.
So it calms them right down.
That's right. Give them that cold shower. You guys just take a chill pill till May rolls around for us.
Well, there's absolutely no need for that to happen now, because you're right. It'll make for a tough turkey hunt coming up. So.
When it's nice early, and it was fixing to be nice early, so I'm kind of glad. But now we're out of the woods, so they'll go right back at it. I don't know. It's not as early as it's been before. It's been nicer earlier in the past years, and it does. Like it's like they get breeding ahead of time, and then the season seems short.
You seen any activity before this cold snap?
Oh, yeah, flocks as many as 14 and 20. I got to get out.
Which is weird this time of year. In the winter, they'll flock up. But this time of year, that many? I'm like, man, we got to go get permission in that spot.
Yeah, I got to do some rounds. I've been waiting for some nice days, and just hasn't been any. I'm going to get some nice days and go out and then get permission and say, okay, where can you park? And then maybe take a walk out and check things. But that weather hasn't come yet.
It's getting that time when we should be starting to ask questions. And like I said to you last week, that I bought my tags and I'm super excited to go. But, we got to get there first. We got another month, I guess, or less right now.
Yeah.
Bit less. Last. I don't even know when it opens. I haven't even checked, but end of April. So I don't know.
Sometimes starting to have all their sales on decoys, and I need a couple new calls this year. I don't ever use my same mouth calls year over year.
You don't, eh?
No, I throw them out.
I find mine. I knock the mold off them, see if I can pull them apart, and then I'm good to go with them. Once or twice in your mouth, they're softened back up. You're ready to rock.
Yeah, that's why you sound like a dead cat when you use your mouth calls.
Hey, the walls don't lie, buddy.
The walls don't lie.
The walls don't lie.
Kicks you outside. But I lost my striker last year after I shot my bird. I left it in the woods. You know, my yearly donation to calls to the woods. Now I gotta go out and get a couple mouth calls and a new striker, and then I'll be good to go for the season.
Doesn't that drive you nuts when you get home and oh no, I dropped it somewhere?
Yes and no, because it's like workout supplements, right? You start working out and you're working out for a while, and then it starts to get stagnant, and you get that new supplement, and you're like, oh, it's go time. It's like turkey season now. You go get that new call, and you're like, it regenerates you. You're like, oh, now I'm ready to rock.
Every year I get the mouth calls brand new, and I always try to look for something that's a little different, or maybe a new call that's out there. You know, when I went to Florida that year, I got a couple, and I said, actually one in my bedside table that I haven't even taken out of the box yet.
We don't want to know, Bill. That's kind of weird.
Yeah, I'm keeping that so I know where to find it. But the calls I like to get from down south, because they're different. It's not stuff that you can buy.
It's bedtime.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, you call my wife a turkey.
Candace is down the hall and she.
Oh, Will Smith on you. Come on.
Well played.
Just say the word. I'll do it for you.
Keep my wife's name out your mouth. That's
worst
awesome.
part is that'll be a week old by the time this comes in.
I know, and everybody's already tired of it.
Open my social media post today, and there was nothing but that on there.
I'm like, what is my brother-in-law was sending me meme after meme after meme. I'm like, what is he sending me? This doesn't make any sense. And then I fired, and then I seen it, and I'm like, holy geez, can we just write this whole industry off? These people are so out of touch. Put
Talk about old school morals and values.
What? They need to listen to the Redneck Country podcast.
Absolutely.
If they spent some more time, maybe we should do that. Let's take a star hunting and introduce them to what the real world is like.
That's it. Running out of ammunition, guns falling apart, and having a good time, just laughing at each other and making memories.
And then telling stories about it. Yeah, instead of eating their vegan foo-foo on some bougie island.
So, what I did notice too was a plethora.
A plethora, breaking out the big words, folks.
That means whole bunch.
Dad,
just in case you're
so
wondering.
you're aware, that means plenty, big.
Of pictures while I was eating dinner tonight about where we're going, and I figured we talked enough about your hockey.
Did that not drive you nuts? And the whole time I'm thinking, I'm working out, and I hear bling 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 bling, and I'm like, what on earth? I can't post that many. Like the square for our podcast, that tiled title is only so big. I can only fit so many pictures in that thing.
Don't be afraid of the number of pictures. One is just a conglomerate of places and wetlands I found, and I will mention them. There's not a story for every picture, but I will tell you.
That's good, folks, because we'd still be on the horn come next week when this one releases.
If time permits, Todd will be born tonight.
Well, the world is waiting in great anticipation for that to
tell you what, these podcasts are about to get a lot better real quick.
So where are we going tonight?
You going with me?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, he comes over with a scroll, and I mean, most people our age, Bill, would have papers written or electronic. He's got a scroll. It should tell you his age, but he comes over with a scroll. He sent us 45 pictures, and then he says, "Oh, you going with me tonight?" Right?
He doesn't want to sound cocky,
right?
No.
But see, sometimes being real is just better.
I'm grateful for the privilege. And I enjoy letting Todd know what he missed. So either way,
there you go.
I'm going to introduce a new name tonight, George Barrow. George and I, we worked together, and he joined Ron and I lots of times, and Chuck a few times, and Fred a few times. But George and I did, when Ron and I got on the wrong shift, we did a lot of hunting together, and so we did some scouting together. And the first picture that I sent you, it's George and I. And what we did was we were out looking for wet spots and fields and looking for ducks to land. And that was going to be a duck hunting week. We wanted to start out on Monday morning, see what we could find. And we come across a a concession where there was a row of farms, and behind the barns and the farms, there was ducks flying, and every once in a while we'd see a pair go down or 5 go down in different spots. We figured, man, there must be some wet holes back in there. But instead of just trying to park and go in, we decided that at this point we needed a laneway to get back in there, because there was like a woods and a field, and then looked like a swale, and then another woods, another field, and it looked like we had a lot of ground to cover. So we drove into this one farm that looked like it had a farm lane that went quite a ways back, and we knocked on the door and said, hey, we're looking to hunt some ducks and maybe check out the woods back there. Do you mind if we park and go back? The farmer said, no, go ahead. So we went in, and when we drove in, behind the barn, maybe 50 yards behind the barn, here was this nice big pond, and it was fenced off, and there was no ducks or anything in it, but we thought, okay, we'll mark that on the map. So we parked, and then we walked back in, and we come to a deep hole, like a huge pond, and it was really deep sides. It was steep sides way down into this pond. No ducks, geese on it. Found a couple more wet holes, wet spots. We found like the dead trees that didn't grow, no ducks. So we thought, well, okay.
Holes, or would you call them swales?
Well, they were, the hole, no, wasn't a swale. I mean, it was, fields surrounded it. And I mean, it was deep. I don't know if it was an old gravel pit, what it was, but it was deep, but it was all sandy edge. But it was, I don't think you could shoot across it. That's how big it was. And, but nothing in it. So anyway, we decided that we'd check out the woods. So, okay, rabbits is open, grouse is open. So we walked through the woods, and we started putting a few rabbits up, but nothing that we could get a shot at. It was pretty thick. And then all of a sudden we started putting up the odd grouse or two. So we split up, and we put some space between us. And sometimes one guy would walk along the edge of a clearing while the other guy walked just inside it. And sometimes maybe it was the edge of the wood. One guy walked along the edge of the woods while one guy walked along just inside it, because they live in the edges. And you'll see from the picture that we got 2 grouse each.
Yeah.
So
I was trying to figure out, you were going for ducks, and the first picture was 4 grouse.
That's right. Yeah, we got 4 grouse that day. So we did some other scouting around and figured that, this is going to be a good spot for grouse, and certainly an opportunity for ducks. So we'd gone back to work, and we told Ron. Said, hey, Ron, on Saturday, you got to come with us. We'll save that place for Saturday. We'll go back in, park at the same farm. And if there's no ducks or anything flying, at least we can hunt some rabbits and grouse. It seems to be a good spot. Ron was up for it. So the second picture I sent you, we went in and walked past that, or drove past that pond, nothing in it. So we parked just past the pond. And we went back in, and sure enough, there were some ducks on that big deep spot, but there's no way we could get a shot at them. They left without us ever getting close. We tried, the 3 of us tried to surround it, but we couldn't. But we did go out into the woods. They thought, okay, well, let's hit the woods. Well, you'll see from the picture that we got 1 rabbit and 1 grouse in the woods. But I cannot for the life of me remember which one of us shot the rabbit and the grouse that day. And,
that's a big rabbit.
Yeah, it was a good size. That was a good sized rabbit. And we got 1 rabbit, 1 grouse, and you can see Mitzi's in the picture. Ron's Chairman Y Mariner. So anyway, we decided, okay, it's time to go. We weren't skunked. So we're walking back down the laneway towards the car, and we get to that pond that's fenced in. And here's 5 geese inside the fenced area standing on the bank of the pond. Okay, they had to have flown in after we'd gone in. They were not tame geese. They were not farm geese. They must have had flown inside the fence when we were going in. And there was corn up close to one side of that pond. So Ron and I decided, okay, well, let's see if we can come up on the corn and then run at the pond and try and get them as they take off into the air. Well, George, he decided he was going to go around to the other side of the pond. And George had never shot a goose. And you'll see in the picture he's got his Browning autoloader. The
Auto 5.
Yeah, the Auto 5. So he went around to the, and that's what he hunted. Even in the grouse picture, you'll see he's got that Auto 5. That's what he hunted with. I got my nice little 20 gauge double. Ron's got his his over and under that he bought that he's really proud of. But I got my little 20 gauge double. And so George went around, worked his way through the corn and went around on the other side and got in a stand of trees on the other side of the pond. So Ron and I got to the edge of the corn, and there's those 5 geese. And we said, are you ready? Let's go. And we ran at that fence. And when we got to the fence, those geese had started running towards the pond. They didn't fly immediately. They ran towards the pond, went down the bank of the water. When they hit the water, they were running on top of the water, flapping their wings. They were using the water to take off. We got to the fence. We couldn't get any closer. And here they are coming up. And I brought up my 20 gauge, put it on just like on the back of the head of one as it's climbing. Ka-wham, fell in the water. Moved to a second one. Ka-wham, it fell in the water. And I looked at Ron and we both said at the same time, I got a pair. We both looked back at the pond, and there was just 2 laying on the pond. We looked back at each other and went, oh, no, did we shoot the same 2 geese? And we shot the same 2 geese. And, of course, I'm saying, okay, well, that's the way to get them down. But Ron is a little bit more tempered than I am, and he was disappointed and angry that we shot the same 2 geese, he said, because we could have maybe got 4 of them. But anyway, we watched them fly over the pond, and now they're climbing over the trees, and we hear a couple of shots, ka-wham, ka-wham, and then a third shot, ka-wham, and we don't see any fall. It's hard to tell if any were hit. We figured, okay, that's George over there shooting at the 3 that flew away. And so I watched them run. So I'm going over the fence and get them out. So I watched them fly away. They made a big swoop to the north or the south, sorry, and they started flying straight south. And then as they got over the trees and then over a field, one just all of a sudden crumpled and fell. And I went, oh, he did hit one.
I was going to say, because I'm looking at the photo.
Yeah.
See, that's why I don't like looking at these. It's a spoiler alert. I could see 3 geese, so I knew how this story ended.
Well, anyway, so George made his way back around to us. Ron had the 2 geese. And so, okay, George, it's like, tell us about your story. Tell us. He says, I thought I hit one. He says, but he says, I've never shot a goose before, and they were climbing, and he says, I missed them. And I said, well, not entirely. He said, what do you mean? I said, well, one's dead. Like, it's the other side of those trees and across that field, but I think you'll find it easy enough. It's laying in the field. And he got all excited. He says, really? I said, yeah, you brought one down. All you got to do is watch him for a while. Like Ron and I learned that early. And so anyway, he went for the walk. I pointed him where to go, and he come back with that goose, and he was just beaming because that was his very first goose. And that's a good picture there with with Ron and George. I took the picture, the 3 geese, the rabbit, the grouse. And
I knew you
Mitzi.
took the picture too because their heads aren't cut off.
Yeah, everything was all centered in that picture. But I tell you, it's an interesting lesson that you learn to watch them. You shoot at them. And I remember when I was first hunting in layout boats on Lake Erie, a flock of bluebills would come in or something like that, and you'd shoot, and then 1, 2, 3, and I missed, and all of a sudden, watch him, he's going down, and they'd be crash way out there. His lungs would fill up with water or with blood, and then that'd be it. And
when you don't have to do that.
When do you not have to do that, Mr. Cocky and Arrogant?
Not to sound cocky or arrogant, but if you just shoot him in the head, you don't have to watch him much for very long at all. Right. You're on point tonight. You know that? like a German War Mariner, baby.
That's it. But anyway, that's good. So he got his first goose there.
He got his first goose. Yeah, he was excited. He was pretty happy. Now he did get a couple more after that, but you got to remember we didn't hunt geese back then. We only had the ducks. But if you came across them, you certainly went after them. But we didn't see the big flocks like you do today, and we didn't set up for geese. We were hunting big flocks of ducks in the fields, not geese. But we went after, they were real trophies back then to get a goose. It was incredible. So we enjoyed that.
Still amazes me that you can go out and get a combo hunt like that too. Rabbits, grouse, ducks.
And the numbers of grouse, like we got 4 that first hunt back in there. And the most I ever got in one day was 3, but we certainly put up more because the guy with would have got 1 or 2. So we've come home with 5 or 6 grouse. But the most I ever got personally in one day was 3 of a limit of 5. But you put up a lot more than that. So you could go on a grouse hunt. You could say, let's not hunt rabbits today. Let's hunt grouse. and you could go on a grouse hunt. Of course, if you put up rabbits, you shot at them, but you could plan a grouse hunt rather than a rabbit hunt. And today it's hard to find them. It really is. So anyway, we did enjoy a lot of grouse hunting back then, and they were good eating. We enjoyed them.
Grouse down south, down where we are.
Yeah, not north. Yeah, there's a lot up north, but not here where we are. There was more at one time.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this. We got a bunch of the hunt camp too, but the numbers aren't fantastic. Like when I go out far north, there's lots. Spruce grouse and then Hungarian partridge. There are two different looks to them, but the grouse that you have in those pictures is typically what we see up north as well. And you can get on them, and you get maybe 2 or 3 in a, I don't know if you call them clutches or whatever you call them for. They're not flocks, but in a
group.
Gonna
make me Google this.
Yeah, you can do that. It's put yourself to work there. But the grouse hunting isn't the way. Like we went out, Todd. We didn't see a single grouse, and the bush was perfect.
Nope, I only know one bush. Yeah, I only know one bush around here where there's grouse. We haven't hunted it in a long time, Dad, but we used to take turns, one grouse per year, and we put up a couple, but we'd only shoot one. Dad's turn, and the next year would be my turn. I think there was one year we did. No, it was I was holding the grouse, you were holding a rabbit. Pictures behind me on the wall somewhere, but yeah, we'd take turns, and that's the only woods I've ever seen grouse in.
Now, before Todd was born, I used to hunt that woods a lot and hunt grouse, specifically grouse, and put up a lot. I even hunted them in the snow when the snowbank's in there, and they used to fly into the snowbanks for cover during the storm, and I'd go in the morning and kick them out of the snowbank.
FYI, before I Google this, I'm going on the record to say I'm going to guess covey of grouse.
That's a covey of quail. I don't know about grouse.
Well, we're about to find out. Stay tuned.
Okay, we'll stay tuned. Anyway, I sent you a third picture, and that picture is Ron Underhill, myself, and Kevin Heyman, and we got, I believe, 15 ducks, and we're on my parents' back porch, just a cement back porch.
That looks like a great hunt there. I mean, if you could shoot that many ducks from your parents' back porch, man, you did all right.
Yeah. And why we went there and took the picture, I don't know, unless we cleaned them there and I gave my dad some. I don't remember. But anyway, they were there. Unless we parked there and met there. I don't know. But either way, that was my parents' back porch. But Ron and I had found a swale, and this was a swale, and it was only about 100 yards off a back road. And we saw ducks going in there quite often. And so we decided we'd go in there and hunt it one day. Well, we snuck up on it, and it was quite big, and it was too deep to wade. So you had to either scare them out and try and get a few when they went out, or you planned a hunt for the next day and went in there like later in the morning when they were coming back to rest, coming back to roost maybe in the evening.
Okay, so pause there and talk about that. Tips and tricks, because that's what you taught me a long time ago. Yeah. A lot of guys will hunt ponds, but they'll move in when they're already on the pond. They'll scare them up and get the crack at them, but they're not coming back because you just shot at them. Yeah. Ducks, little dumber than geese, not as prevalent. So they may come back because they're dumber. But geese, you shoot at geese, chances are they're not coming back to that pond, at least not for a while.
So, yeah, when we first found it, we decided, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to come back in the morning, and if they're there, we're just going to scare them out. If they're not there, we're just going to wait for them to come back in 2s and 3s.
Because that's a tip that may not get passed around a lot, is that if you really want, you find a pond right full of geese. And we've done this. I remember, 15 years ago was the first pond hunt that you took me on, maybe 20, that we found. It was, Bill, you could walk across this pond on geese and not touch the water.
Oh, there was several hundred in there.
It was insane. And it was pitch black. A guy at work told us about it. It's his parents' pond, yada, yada, yada. You guys go get it on a Saturday. We get there at like 4 a.m. It's pitch black. We got to put decoys out, so we're early. And we go walking up, and I said, so what's the game plan? Dad says, you scare them out in the dark. They think that it's like a coyote walking by or some danger, but they go out in the dark. Then when they go, they'll find another spot to lay down, too dark for hunters to shoot. Then they'll go out and feed. And then they're going to come back because this is where they're living. You didn't change where they're living. You just scared them out for the interim. And then they're going to go feed, and then they're going to come back to where they're living, which that's where we are, and we're waiting for them. It's going to be around 10:30 when they're done feeding in the fields, and they'll come back. Maybe earlier,
and
depends.
The sound when you kick those up must be deafening.
Oh, my gosh. At 4 in the morning, 4:30 in the morning, we're walking up pitch black. You can't see nothing.
And we didn't know which side to go in on and set up on.
It was a big, long L-shaped pond. We got close, and it just and up. It was deafening. And I said, "Oh, that was a lot of geese. That's a lot." So we go, okay, well, we got to go around. We thinking we got to get on the other side and set up over there because we want to shoot. The field we walked across was much safer. There was some implement buildings and a house behind us, so we want to shoot towards the field we just walked in. So we got to get the other side. So we walked around the other side, and I'll be darned, we come around the L shape. We put another couple hundred out. And it was like, oh my gosh. So then we start putting decoys. Well, as the pond went down into this little corner, that's where the main bunch were. And then they went out, and oh my goodness. We limited out that day.
We did.
No doubt. With that many birds, you're pretty you're kicking around.
I tell you what, it was insane. So we set up decoys, and then we hunkered down and hid and just put some decoys in the water and then hid. And then they came back in fives and tens.
Perfect.
And
you couldn't ask for a better number than that.
It was awesome. And it worked, right? So you scare them out in the morning, they stage up, they go feed, and then they're coming back to where they're living. Versus if we'd have waited till 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock when they were in there and jumped that pond, you'd have got one crack at them.
That's it.
Those shots would have scared the whole thousands that were in there, and then they won't come back if they come back at all, it wouldn't be for a while.
Yeah, on that particular hunt, it was an early season too, so you were allowed 10. So we got our 20 geese, and then we packed up and got out of there.
They were still coming in when we were packing up.
So that meant, so that
you
meant
don't want to educate that many birds, right?
So we got several hunts in there that year.
Yeah, we did.
And the same the next year, just by simply scaring them out and going back in and get them as they're coming back. And we took Rick with us next year, remember?
Yep.
And so we had some really good hunts the next year, and we would limit out every time. And it was really good. I remember one day that, we had a big wall blind just sitting up on the bank in front of us, and we sat on a little ledge on the bank.
Root system.
Yeah, roots, like trees and that behind us.
This was one of those accordion-style blinds, but it's got to be 6.5 feet tall.
We only put about 5 floaters out and 4 or 5 standing geese on the bank. And this flock of geese came in, circled, but they didn't come to the decoys. They headed to the corner, and they were going to land in the corner. And I said to Todd, they're going to land in that corner. They're not coming to the decoys. They're going to land down there and draw everything there. And Todd got on the call, and he went crazy. And they were only about 10 feet off the water, wings set, feet down, and then they all of a sudden put their feet up, made a turn. Now they're only about 4 feet off the water, and they turned towards the call, and they started to come along that edge, and then they saw the decoys, and they came right along there, 4 feet off the water, and we're going to land right in our decoys right to us. And it was the first time that I'd ever seen a call work that good and keep them 4 feet off the water until they were right in front of us. Remember that?
Yeah, I didn't even have to tell that story. I didn't even have to sound cocky or arrogant there. Yeah. So I will say we hijacked the Days of Lead because this is steel, and yes,
that's okay.
Greatness was born. But that was
where we go, right?
Well, and that was the same. Sitting around a campfire, just telling stories. This is where it works, especially when you're sitting with me. I'm going to take over anyway. So that was the same morning that we had one left for our limit. We whack them in that corner where they were going to land. That's where there was an island out in the middle, and the wind was kind of blowing there, but it was really stagnant. You could see where the geese were really piling up because the water had that disgusting filth on the top of it, like a film. And that's like it, because the wind had pushed all the crap that way, and it wasn't that windy, just a breeze. And so that end of the pond was stagnant with like goose crap. Like it was disgusting. And we shot the last goose, lands and pushes up against the island. And we sat there for half an hour, Dad, debating how we get, that's our last goose. That's our limit. We can't say we got a limit if we leave that goose, and there's no way we're leaving a dead goose. No. So what do we get? We don't have a dog. What are we going to do? Well, do we go see if so-and-so's got a boat at his place that let us hunt here? Maybe they got a boat. Is there something we can, you want to know what ended up happening, Bill?
What's that?
I ended up stripping down. and swam. I got naked and swam through that crap all the way. And we're talking, it's cold.
Through the short straw.
Every time, Drew, there was no straw drawn. Every time, Bill, that something like this had to happen.
But it was disgusting. That many geese living in there for that length of time. Oh my gosh, that was cold. Disgusting.
I mean, we're in October. Like, it was insane. Maybe late September. It was not warm. And I'm going to tell you, I swam through it. I got that goose. I start pushing it back, and I'm swimming through this, and my foot touched something.
I was just going to tell that story. He screamed like a girl. And I thought,
oh, no, that's
what's
not
going on? What's happening? My foot touched something.
Oh, dude. There was something. It moved. I mean, it was, I don't know if it was a snapping turtle, a giant fish. I don't know what it was. My foot touched something that was moving as I was coming through that crap, and I ain't swam that fast in my life.
Yeah,
and then I had it was an hour and a half drive home.
That they had to deal with you smelling like
I had to deal with me with this film on my skin. I tell you, it's probably why I have such a good complexion now, though.
And your wife didn't disown you at that point.
You know what? I don't even remember.
She probably rolled her eyes and said, "Yeah, that's what I expected."
She knew I was hunting.
So, anyway, back before Todd's born.
Back to boredom. Sorry, folks. I got in there for a little bit.
We found that swale. So we go back the next morning, the three of us, and we set up on the easiest side to get to the water, which is going to give us the best shots across that swale because it's too deep to wade. And so we're waiting for the ducks to come in, and sure enough, they start coming in 3s, 4s, 5s. And so I had my Model 12, I believe. Ron had I had my autoloader at that time. Ron had his over and under, I think, in that picture. And then Kevin had an autoloader, but I don't know what it was. But anyway, we stood up, and Ron and I knocked down a few, and Kevin didn't get any. So the next few come in, and we stood up and shot, and Kevin didn't get any. And he says, I can't hit him. I can't hit him. And this was like one of his first hunts. And I'm not sure if he hunted how many times before that or not. But anyway, I watched him. The next bunch come in, I watched him. And when he jumped up, he just put that gun up and pulled the trigger 3 times. Just bang, bang, bang.
Woo, tip number 2 coming. This one's a big one.
This is a really good one.
I said to Ron, okay, here comes a pair. Watch Kevin. Okay, Kevin, go get him. And that pair come in, and he jumped up and went, bang, bang, bang. Well, then Ron and I took our time and dropped him.
Not to sound cocky or arrogant or anything.
It just took our time, and we got one each. So anyway, I said to him, Ron says, oh, my gosh, Kevin, you're flock shooting. He says, what do you mean I'm flock shooting? Like, they're all in there together. I just, like, I put my gun up, I point it, and I shoot. I should. No, Kevin. Slow down. What we're going to do is take the shells out of your gun. You're only going to have 1 shell. What do you mean 1 shell? How many have you got out of 9 shells? None. Well, now you're going to get 1 with 1 shell. So we took the shells out of his gun. We gave him 1. Said, now make it count. You only got 1 shot. So take your time, pick out a bird, lead it properly, swing through it, and shoot that bird. So the next bunch that come in, Ron and I got up and we're shooting. Kevin shot his 1 shot, and he was whooping. He got 1. I said, okay, now you get 2 shells. And so we give them 2. The next bunch comes in, and we
earn a shell. It's the earn a shell program.
Yeah. So, okay, we're not going to shoot because we're getting close to a limit. So you shoot. And of course, I said, well, I got 2 shots. Just remember, you got all the time in the world. Shoot the first one and shoot the second one the same way. Don't be in a hurry to get the second one. You got lots of time. So he got up, went through the duck, bam, got it, moved to another one, bam, got it. I said, now do you see what I mean? He says, yeah. He says, the first one I got, those 3 were bunched right together. He says, I picked one out and the other 2 didn't fall. Exactly. You're figuring you're going to get all 3 with that shot, and you're just bang, 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 throwing lead out there. It doesn't work that way. So I said, okay, you just graduated to 3 shells. So ever since then, he was a happy guy. And that picture, we came home, you'll see we came home with 15 ducks that day.
But that goes for even when you're hunting with guys, because you'll have that feeling of I've got to shoot fast and first because they're gonna, and if you do, you wasted shells.
That's it.
It's better to wait, let guys jump up, boom, 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 and take your time and at least get 1, 2, maybe even 3, because you take your time, you're gonna get geese. or ducks.
And 9 times out of 10, you're not going to get caught off guard or handcuffed with them coming in. They're not going to catch you by surprise. You know, you got time.
It's that feeling of, oh my gosh, there's 5 and there's 5 guys in the blinds or 4 guys in the blinds. I'm not going to get one. I got to jump up. No, you don't got to be the first to jump up. Get up, take your time, lead one. If it falls, move to another, move through it slow and pull the trigger.
If the guns are going off and it doesn't fall, then shoot it. Simple as that.
But it's so much to get over that because I know it. There's anxiety there thinking, I want to get a goose. I want to get, especially the first one. I want to get a goose. I got to beat these guys. You're not going to beat anybody. And if you do, you're not going to hit one. And if you do hit it, you ain't going to know where you hit it because you just shot.
That's it.
Dad said to me the first time,
a bird.
Do you know where you're shooting? Do you know what you're shooting at? Do you know where you're aiming? Well, I threw up the gun, and that's the thought process. Where did I miss? And if you don't know where you missed, you're flock shooting.
Yep, and that's everybody. I can guarantee you, everybody who is just getting into it gets that super excited. I did it, and for sure I did. I lake hunting. I tell those stories because that's most of my hunting experience for ducks and geese up till I met you guys and went out my own. But we layout boat hunted a lot on Lake Erie, and when those birds are coming in low into the decoys, and you don't think you have enough time, you get beat. And if you have 6 or 8 ducks come in, and you just pick the gun up and start shooting, unless you pick a bird, and if you 6 or 8 come in and you get one, well, at least you got one, as opposed to missing 3 and throwing lead out into the lake or steel into the lake at that time. But it's a very, very good lesson for anybody that's just getting into it, is pick a bird. Don't pick the flock, pick a bird.
It's the biggest one. It's big. And guys ask you to go hunting and you're like, I don't want to go hunting with them because what if I don't shoot any? What if I don't do any good? No, you just take your time. Don't jump up and think you got to blow through 3 shells. Sit up, take your time, pull the trigger once. Other guys are shooting 3 times and they say, hey, did you get any? I only pulled the trigger once. And if you only missed one when you pulled the trigger once, it's not as bad as I missed all 3 shots. And if you take your time and you do that, chances are I pulled the trigger once and I got one.
Yeah,
that's it. Yeah, for sure.
Do the same thing again and again. There's lots of times, even hunting geese, I don't get my 3rd shot off.
You barely get out of the blind by the time we got our 3rd shots off.
And it doesn't bother me if I got 2 geese with 2 shots, I'm happy because there are guys that hunt with us and they got 2 with 3 shots.
Because he's just happy to be able to get up out of the blind. Right. I was able to sit up this time.
Yeah.
Now I'll try mounting my gun.
Now, a side note to that hunt. When we were going in and walking around looking for a spot to get in there close to the water, there was a kind of a wooded, not mature trees, but kind of a stand of trees around one side that we had to walk through or around. And we come to a spot along the edge of that pond that looked like that had all kinds of deer tracks there. It came across the field and all messed around that edge of the pond, all kinds of deer tracks in the mud, and they were deep. And I thought, man, that looks like a big deer. And Ron said, oh, it really does. And we had a guy worked with us that didn't duck hunt, but he bow hunted. Well, back then, Ron and I didn't bow hunt. And so we went back and told this guy we thought there was a nice deer hanging around that pond, maybe going there to water. We didn't know because we never even deer hunted then. We didn't start deer hunting until the black powder hunt came in. And we did not bow hunt. So I drew him a map and I said, go in there and see if you can see that deer in the morning. Maybe he's there or in the evening, whatever. So anyway, next day at work, he comes back and he says, thanks for the tip, guys. I said, oh, did you see it? No. And when last week, it reminded me of this because we were talking about this. He said, it was pig tracks. It was a huge pig, cloven hoof, and it was going deep, and they still got that hook out behind.
The dew claw.
Yeah, and I don't know. I don't know if it was a wild pig or not, but anyway, he said that was a pig in there, and he said it wasn't a deer, it was a pig. I said, oh, okay, sorry about that. So we learned a lesson. So
nothing wrong with bacon.
I really
nothing wrong at all.
But I never forgot that because I'd never hunted deer at that time. Anyway, the 4th picture, and it's back at that same swale. And that picture is of one person. His name is John Frank, and it says John Frank from England. I don't know if it's in the picture or not. But when I was a kid, John and Brenda Frank, they moved from England over here to Canada and settled here in St. Thomas, and they became friends with my parents. And their daughter was born here, but before their son was born, they decided to move back to England. Well, years later now, when I'm grown and out hunting with Ron and Kevin and everybody, he came back by himself, stayed with my parents for a few weeks because he was trying to talk Brendan to come back to Canada, and he was looking for a business to get into and a place to live, and he really wanted to move back to Canada. And so maybe that's why we were there that day, showing him that 15 ducks. But anyway, he says, I really would like to come. He says, you can't hunt in England unless you own the property or you're invited on a piece of property, and it's a rich man's sport because you pay to hunt. And even grouse and everything is driven to you. So he said, I'd like to come along with you. And I said, okay, well, tomorrow morning, we're going to go back to that swale. You come with us if you want. Ron and I are going back. Come with us. So we went back to that swale, and there was only probably maybe 2 or 3 ducks came into that swale. When we got there, we scared some out, but only 2 or 3 ducks came back in. We got a few. Well, then the ducks started to fly, but they didn't come back to rest in the swale. They came back to feed in the cornfield. So Ron says, okay, we got to do our sneaking on the cornfield. We got to do the crawling. We got to do the sneaking. And Mitzi, get behind us. So we spread out and started across the cornfield. And then when a flock came towards us to feed and started feeding across the field, that's when we would jump up and shoot them. And then that happened 2 or 3 times, and we ended up, I don't know, I think there's 7 in front of him. Anyway, we managed to pull down, for the morning, we managed to pull down 7 ducks. And you'll notice in those pictures that there's 1 or 2 blacks in those pictures as well. The blacks would fly in with the mallards. And they were a lot more plentiful then than they are now. But anyway, he was amazed at Mitzi. She hung back until the first shot was fired, and then she was out there like a shot, picking up ducks and chasing them down. And we had a good morning, and he enjoyed it. So he says, okay, you got to take my picture. Give me a gun, take my picture, get the dog in here. And so he's got his arm around Mitzi. And I said, oh, you want a picture? He says, yes, I'm sending this back to England. He says, I'm telling them that I'm enjoying duck hunting over here. so that's the picture we took, and that's the picture he sent back to England. And he was quite taken. Now, they did not end up moving back. He did come for 6 months or something, but then he went back to England. They never did end up coming back to live permanently.
Couldn't make it work, but
yeah. But anyway, my parents stayed in touch with him for years until my parents finally passed, but they never did move back. So anyway, I sent you, let me see where we are with time. We're getting close. I sent you a series of pictures of wet spots, and I don't have a story for every one, but I wanted you to see all the particular flooded cornfields, wet spots that we used to find. Now the farmers, they tile their fields, they build up those spots. There's not near the wet spots like there used to be. And I sent you probably, 6 or 8 pictures of wet spots.
Yeah, there's a few of them here. Yeah,
that we found. Now, there is one that you'll see me standing in a cornfield. It's not a wet spot. It's a picked cornfield, and I'm holding ducks in each hand. And it's the only one I think that there's no water. Well,
looks like you're wearing a tie. Oh no, that's the one before that. Yeah.
Okay. If you look at the front of me in that picture, you will see the mud up my legs and up my coat. Can you see that mud?
Yeah, absolutely.
We crawled through the cornfield and let the ducks feed to us. And as you're crawling through and they're feeding like up in the air and then down in front, you're crawling towards them the whole time they're feeding towards you. And then when you can see the green heads popping up and down in the corn, you just get your gun on your shoulder, like pull it up beside you on your shoulder and wait until they're right in front of you, and then sit up, and then it's just, and up they go. And so you'll see all the mud on me from doing that crawl.
No decoys there. You're just getting close and pulling the trigger, and they're putting the beat in the right spot.
Okay. The one, yeah, exactly. Now the one that you think I'm wearing a tie, I'm standing in a water hole, right?
Yeah.
That water hole was one of the water holes that I told you the story last week about Ron walking, or like the hot water hole we found. I went back by myself, and then we hunted another water hole that I found in the area. Ron walked over to that, and I said it was a whole series of ponds and water holes that had stumps in it. That was one of the water holes with the stumps in it, but it's kind of a blurry picture. But there is.
But I'm with you. It looks like he's wearing a tie.
Yeah, it does.
He's got a suit under his duck hunting
days
jazz.
when you went to the gun club with a suit on and you had a tie and you hunted like a gentleman back then, I guess, right?
Yeah, I don't know. Go to the last picture that I sent you there. That picture Todd's looking at. The last picture I sent you, it's a lot of grass in the pond, and I'm in the middle there picking up ducks, and I think it's Mitzi's in the water, or maybe not. Anyway, that is the pond that dried up on us in that dry year. That when we couldn't find any wet spots, that's the pond that dried up on us that we put the plastic down and made it.
That's the same one.
That's it. And you'll see
Lake Mill Hill.
Yeah, but there was no water the year we put the plastic in there. But see the bank behind me, how it's like a little dip, and that's right. Yeah, we just laid on that dip and put the plastic behind us and put the decoys on the plastic, and that duck came right over that little ledge there, or that dip. That's the pond that we made into Lake Mill Hill. So anyway, are we done? We run out of time here now, and I'll start with Todd being born next week if you still want me to go on.
Yeah, I think it's starting to get some time to get some Todd into some of these stories, and I'd like to hear about some of his first hunts.
Yeah, he's not hunting yet, but I can get there real quick because the fact that he was born next week is the big thing.
Well, right,
I don't even know what to say. You guys are just stealing all my thunder.
I'm not stealing a thing.
How can someone be cocky and arrogant when you're doing it for him?
See, some of those pictures were 77, and my daughter was born in 76, 1976.
Yeah, who cares about that?
And Todd was born in 1978.
Whoa, we weren't saying ages on here.
They're almost 3 years apart because my daughter was January, Todd was December, so they were almost 3 years apart. But Todd wasn't my daughter was born in most of those last pictures, but Todd wasn't yet, but he's coming up. So anyway, that's
good. I'm looking forward to hearing some of the newer hunts, or the hunts of the 1980s, and figuring out how we get to where we are today. And it's the history that brings us, closer with these stories, and trying to understand what we did right and wrong. And it's, the different species too, right? I mean, we started with the duck hunting and the grouse and the rabbits, but turkey hunting season's coming right up, and we got to start talking a little bit more about that. And I think we're going to be maybe get my brother on for another story here. Coming up soon too. But I'm enjoying these stories, the pictures, and even though we haven't heard anything about Todd yet, maybe it's because we haven't heard anything about Todd yet. I'm really enjoying these stories.
Well played, Bill. So. Well played.
I noticed there's no conversations about summertime. In the summertime back then, did you guys do a bunch of fishing too?
Oh, I jumped all those.
No, just as a curiosity.
Oh, yeah. We fished. Yeah. Like I pickerel fished and trout fished, and when I was looking for pictures and we talked about steel, they mixed in all these hunts that I've sent you.
I was a fisherman before I was a hunter.
Yeah, mixed in all these pictures. There's all kinds of fishing pictures where, I've got a really nice picture of when I took my nephew and he was young. How old is Rick over you, Todd? How many years?
Oh gosh, 6 or 7.
Yeah, so he was probably about 11 or 12. So Todd would have been just born or 5 or 6 years old when Wayne Travis and I took Rick down the Thames pickerel fishing, and I've got a really nice picture where we've got 7 beautiful walleyes pickerel on his first pickerel fishing expedition. But I jumped over all of them. I'm not talking about.
They got a lot of Facebook posts that I'm seeing from our friend Nick Obermach.
Oh yeah,
and he is absolutely slaying fish out there.
And he's got some openings.
Yeah, well, that's what we're kind of looking at in the summertime. I'd like to call him up if time's going to allow, but time's getting tight already. But
I tell you what,
all I can tell you is the fish that he's posting there make you want to jump in the boat and book a charter with him.
Yeah, we'll give a shout out. Pond predator fishing out of Lake St. Clair and Detroit River. But yeah, he said this time of year the big spawners are up in the Detroit River, right? So this is the time of year you catch the monsters.
Check him out because there's definitely a bunch of those fish in his pictures on Facebook.
And if you want to try hand lining, he's the man.
He's the man. So, well, that's good. Anxious to get this one out and appreciate the conversation, gentlemen.
Yeah, thank you, Bill.
Yep. Take care, Bill. It's been a pleasure talking to you again. And keep working on that.
No, quit working on the beetle. Actual good weather comes. Quit jinxing us. Flip me.
Yeah.
Man, the people that actually want to go fast want to get outside. Have a good week, Bill.
Take care.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
And that'll do it for this week, folks. For the Redneck Country Podcast, I'm Bill, the Almost Guy Thom.
And I'm Todd. Thanks for listening. And folks, if you want to be part of the podcast or you want to give us some feedback or really contact us about anything, feel free to email us at podcast@theredneckcountry.com. Again, that's podcast@theredneckcountry.com. Thanks for listening. Talk to you again next week.